Alright, so let me now show you my own results of playing chess. Alright, I've been having some losing streaks, as you can see, which can happen in chess a lot. Alright, so I leveled up from 700 down all the way to 700. I leveled back down to like 730, right? And then had a jump in elo. And maybe sometimes I had like a days where I leveled down, but it wasn't really common at all, okay? And I leveled up away from there ever since. Right? The first one of chess is we are going to first of all identify via an analysis why you as a player are stuck right now. And then what we are going to do is once we figure this out, we are going to then we're going then to focus on how to solve the reason that you're stuck. And then we could basically avert a losing streak. Alright, so the first thing that we want to do is to open like a few games for the analysis that we're gonna have. I would say anywhere between 4 to 5 to 3 is enough, but it should be multiple games. It's better if you're having like an analysis of 5 games, of course, in comparison to just having 2. It's obvious. And so now what we're going to do is we basically have data in front of us for why as players we are stuck, okay? And we need to also do some writing, so I would suggest you to also have like a piece of paper that you can write on anything, because we're gonna do some writing. And now in here we have the analysis. And we also have the paper here, so let's start actually. And so in this, the first game, okay, what we're going to see is that the two players, okay, that immediately like had a problem with their openings, okay, because the white basically have made this move. Clearly this is a game played by two beginners, but still, okay, and d5 happens, e5, okay, and we can see already that black starts to gain some advantage in here. The move f6 is played. The computer suggests just to do c5, okay, because then you're having a lot more control over the center, like with a lot more power. Alright, in comparison to, let's say, white, that doesn't really have anything, okay, he has just one pawn, okay, and this pawn is also not backed by anything. It cannot be backed by a knight, alright, because the queen is there, and so this is very good actually for black, but he doesn't do it. He does f6, it takes on f6, and now you're a lot better because yes, you can develop as black. And we can say, let's say for a moment that we're doing this analysis as white, that from the get-go white had been in a disadvantage and played poorly in the opening, and we can see this. Let's move a bit forward in this opening to just show this. The move that white decides to do afterwards is knight to e2. So you can literally like see clearly a lot of nonsense is happening on the board right here. e5, black plays normally as a player should, but white just makes a lot of nonsense. Queen to e3. You can see who has better studied how to play an opening as a beginner. So let's say for a moment that we're making this analysis as white. What we're going now to do is we're going to add to our analysis, okay, that we've had down below, openings 1. And this acts as an indication that we basically need to practice the opening. So let's now take a look at the second game. e4, e5, knight to c6. But the problem is that after this, white does the move a3. And so immediately, like, we can see a problem in the way that white plays, but also a mistake in the way that black plays, because black, instead of just developing normally a knight, and white, instead of just normally developing a bishop, does f6. In this example, both players need to improve on their openings. d4, d6, and the d5 happens, alright? Knight to c7. And so now, as you can see, for the rest of the game, white is going to have already an advantage, okay, in both the fact that he has more space and a lot better pawns. And so what we can also do is write in the openings, we can change the writing there from 1 to, because we had just 2 games that indicate that we need to improve on an opening. A game can indicate on multiple things. So if, for example, we had a blunder in this game, we can also add a blunder so that you could get the understanding of what he would need to do later on as well. Let's say for a moment that we have a third game like this in our analysis, but that goes pretty much like this. e5 has been played, I think, yes, this move, bishop takes on c4, queen to c6, which is a mistake, as it turns out, because what white can do is once he deals with this threat, okay, he could just go and to win the pawn on f7, but he doesn't do it. He does a blunder. He does the move bishop to takes on f7 immediately, which, well, loses the queen, as you can see. Rook takes, okay. After rook takes, okay, you're doing awesome as black. You're being up a 4 points of material, a queen for a rook. And so in our analysis, we can also add blunders. And so this is becoming quite more apparent that we needed to improve on beginner stuff for openings and to avoid blunders. For the fourth game of our analysis, I've prepared actually this. So black have made a d5, queen to h6, given a check. Alright, it's still a 0.1 because you think, okay, this is a problem, but the king is actually relatively safe here. Okay, let me show you. King to g8, and now we show why he is safe, okay, because you can't actually take here, okay, as you want, because, well, it's defended by the queen. And if you actually do end up taking, which is the blunder that white have made, he took here, you can just take, but now you're having this threat, okay, but you're also having this threat, okay, because you need to be careful of these two, because then I can just come here with the queen and it looks extremely dangerous, okay, the queen here, and to involve the bishop, now I gain a huge attack. So let me just show you, okay, after the bishop takes, I now take on f2, okay, the king moves and I move to e3. I have a threat on your queen that you need to deal with, but you also need to deal with a huge threat of this queen here, which is super scary if it would have been white here. And so for blunders, now we can add from 1, we can change that to 2. And so this gives us an indication for what, as chess players, we are supposed to improve on in our game. And when you're making this analysis for a full game, from the beginning of the game all the way into the end game, in here there was also a blunder, okay, you could add that too, okay, when you're making this from the beginning of a game to an end game, you could then have a very long list of the reasons that you're stuck. And you could end up, for example, having here blunders, and you could end up with openings, let's say 6 or 5, okay. In blunders you could have like even an 8, okay, because we're beginners, we blunder usually a lot more, just for the sake of this example. Now we basically have like small data on what we needed to improve on and fix in our games. And so now that we have wrote openings in blunders, now we can set actions to stop yellow plateau. Just fix this here, and now what we can do is we can set the action, for example, 1 down below, 1 study an opening, but we can also set the action to study the opening that we have, okay. So study the Italian. As a beginner, there is what is called not just opening principles, okay, for the beginning stage of the game, but there is something which is called an opening. So an opening is basically a set of moves that you make. So for example, after this, if they do this move, I plan to do this move, then usually they do this the knight here, so I do this move with the bishop, and this is like a simple set of moves that I do for every game that I basically play in. But for now, this is something to be aware of. And so the first action is to study an opening. You can pick any opening that you'd like. Just make sure that this is a normal opening. Don't learn, obviously, an opening that starts with b4 or something nonsense like this. Okay, start with an opening of e4. So this is the first thing. The second thing that we can do is study opening principles, because beginners can come with a lot of things that make no sense, okay, that we haven't actually prepared for. Okay, and so just studying. Now looked here, never play e3, okay, this is e4. Okay, I just looked like to the paper that I have here and off looked the board, okay, but never make obviously a move like e3, make only e4. They come with things like how to study opening principles, or where we are in a position that we haven't yet prepared for. Now we have the principles for how to play properly to navigate us. Now we have two things that are different that we need to set for stopping blunders. And so the first thing that we can do to stop blunders is we can watch a video on how to stop blunders, and this is pretty much instant. Okay, the fourth thing is we can do a hanging pieces puzzles. So if you go to most apps, these are basically like riddles that we have for chess. Let's go, for example, for the daily puzzle. Here they have like a lot of puzzles that that you can just solve. In there we can have a custom section, and in there you set like for a specific topic, okay, that you want to learn on. So we can set the action to learn hanging pieces puzzles, and that is to specifically prepare us for times that our opponent just hangs a piece, which can happen a lot, like with the part that I've shown you, like with the queen, where they hanged it, or for example here, where they basically like hanged almost like their king side. So this is a good way to prepare against hanging pieces. If you're a beginner, this is probably the mistakes that you're gonna have. Mostly openings and blunders. Usually you're not gonna have things like endgame problems. Like sometimes you could, but this isn't going to be as common as, let's say, openings and blunders. This is a way for us to basically figure out why as beginners we are stuck in a specific point in time in chess, and to set actions to solve it. You can also do more than this and go a little bit further and set actions for every time that you go into to learn chess, chess session tasks, and here like have 3 actions that we can do for every time that we go into chess.com or wherever to learn. So for example, the first one is study an opening. Okay, so let's say the Italian, the Sicilian, the Caro-Kann, and this is the first thing, okay, to basically counteract this. The second thing is to do tactics and to do hanging pieces tactics. And here we basically like counteract the really important thing that a lot of you are going to face, which is blunders. And that is, I think, a way for us to figure out why we are stuck at a specific elo in chess and losing, in a way to basically counteract this. So for the tasks that we have to do after this video, okay, it's really just to make the analysis like we have done in this video, okay, for full games, however, not just for a part of the game, okay, but for the entire games that we have. So to make the analysis, okay, we need to then identify the biggest 2 general mistakes and problems that we have, aka, for example, in here it was opening and blunders, okay, it could be openings and endgames, okay, it could be many other things, but if you're a beginner, it's likely just to be openings and blunders. And then to really just set 4 to 5 tasks that you can come up with to just solve these 2, okay? For example, these are actions that I've done to solve this, okay? But you could come up with different things. Instead of like doing hanging pieces tactics, you just go onto YouTube and write how to stop blunders, okay? And just watch a bunch of videos that talk about how to stop blunders, okay? Because this could be helpful more for you. Alright, so that's it for today's video. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I will do my best to answer all of them. And also, let me just say, if you want, okay, and you're stuck at chess as an adult, and you really want to just stop that problem and to just level up from beginner levels, okay, where you're stuck but you're trying to improve but you have a lot of difficulties because you're doing this alone, I can help you in a very simple way, okay, to level up from beginner all the way into intermediate and to the upper levels of intermediate. And I'll see you in the next time. Bye.